Representative McClintock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for holding this hearing. Thank you for including the members of California delegation in it. I just want to begin by noting what my colleague from California, Mr. Huffman, mentioned in his opening statement. Essentially, that it makes no point to develop America's vast energy resources if all we're going to do is export them to other countries. Well, I'm reminded as I look at North Dakota that North Dakota is exporting almost all of its oil to other states and is prospering enormously as a result. Yet my colleague would deny California that same prosperity by exporting its oil to other states, and he would deny our country the same prosperity by exporting our oil to other countries. I just don't understand that. My colleague cheers the reduction in California gasoline consumption since 2006. I would need to remind him that that decline that he is cheering is the direct result of California now having the highest unemployment rate in the nation. When people aren't working, they aren't driving to work. In fact, they're not driving anywhere because they can't afford to. That's not progress. That is a tragedy. If you want to know what an energy-independent America looks like, it looks a lot like North Dakota these days, with the lowest unemployment rate in the nation, the most affordable energy in the nation, a thriving and growing economy that is attracting people from throughout the nation. And if you want to know what an energy-dependent America looks like, well, that looks a lot like California, with the highest unemployment rate in the nation, among the highest energy prices in the country, where people don't buy gas because they can't afford to. I was listening with great interest to the testimony from Ms. Green from SOS. I'm reminded of my California history when Juan Cabrillo dropped anchor in the Santa Barbara Channel in 1542. He noted that he was literally afloat in a sea of oil. Carpinteria got its name because the Spaniards noted the Chumash were caulking their boats with all of the tar that absolutely covered the beaches there. You know, I grew up in that region. I remember in the 1960s, anybody who lived anywhere close to the beach had tins of turpentine in their garages because you couldn't take a walk on any of the beaches in Ventura or Santa Barbara without ending up with gobs and gobs of this tar on your feet. The turpentine was absolutely essential in any home whose people were visiting the beach. But since that resource was developed, since we began drilling off the Santa Barbara Channel, that seepage has declined dramatically. It's a fraction of what it was years ago, and you don't find those tins of turpentine in people's garages anymore because you no longer find the big globs of tar on the beach anymore, thanks to the development of that resource. You know, the representative from the California Energy Commission said that the demand for gasoline and other petroleum products is dropping relative to supply. The lie is put to that claim by the very prices that we see every day on our gasoline pumps that are now at the highest prices I certainly ever remember. You know, if demand was dropping relative to supply, the prices would be dropping. But they're not dropping, they're growing. They're growing dramatically. I paid $4.13 for a gallon of gasoline in California last weekend. You know, that tells us that demand is not dropping relative to supply. It is increasing relative to supply. It is increasing dramatically. That is the market screaming at us that we need more, much more oil production, not less. You know, I wish they were correct that demand's dropping relative to supply. That means that prices would be dropping. They're not. In California, fewer people are driving, yet the supply in California is so tight that prices can't drop. They keep inching upward. Senator Fuller, you mentioned AB 32. I have talked to executives with companies with refineries in both Northern and Southern California, different companies at different times, but they tell me of the same thing, that because of the radical provisions of AB 32, they can continue in business until 2015. but they will not be able to continue in business after 2015. They plan on shutting down those refineries simply because it will be no longer economically possible to operate them. What is that going to do to gasoline prices in California and the availability of gasoline?
Well, we know that gasoline prices will be continued to drive up as we have to be increasingly bringing in other supplies, and that will increase the oil being shipped in by rail, which is a concern. And we also know that the above average unemployment in our area is hurting us, and with our drought, we're going to jump probably from 11.3% unemployment to 30% in all our outlying areas. And this is an antidote that could help both the nation and our area. So we're desperately saying today exactly what you're saying, which is, let's don't import this oil. Let's
maybe Californians who have supported these policies by the people they have elected as a majority may just have a big epiphany in the coming months and years.
Thank you.
Okay.